Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
'Tis now the very witching time of year, when churchyards yawn and hell itself breathes out contagion to this world. Welcome to a very spooky Halloween edition of Politics for Patriots. If you haven't subscribed on iTunes, please go as quickly as you can and subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't decided on a costume yet, I spent all day thinking of the spookiest, scariest things imaginable, and I have come up with the most frightening costume possible. This one is guaranteed to harrow up thy soul, freeze thy blood, and make each particular hair stand on end like quills upon the fretful porpentine. This year's scary Halloween costume is President Elizabeth Warren. And just so you know, that is the exact sound that I plan to make if Elizabeth Warren is ever elected President of the United States. No goblin, mummy, or Frankenstein's monster is scarier than the prospect of President Elizabeth Warren. To paraphrase President Roosevelt, not the one I like, but the other one, we have nothing to fear but fear itself and Elizabeth Warren. It's a really easy costume if you really want to scare the neighborhood children. All you need is a feather headdress, and you can carry around a bow and arrow or something just to add to it. And if anyone asks, "Oh, who are you supposed to be?" just tell them, "I'm President Elizabeth Warren, but you can call me by my Indian name, Sitting Bullshit." If you go with the Elizabeth Warren costume, I promise it'll be scary. Listen, when kids come to your door trick-or-treating, don't give them candy. All right, it's part of the costume. Instead of giving the kids candy, take the candy from their bag and tell them you're going to redistribute it. They might cry, because there aren't very many children out there who are pinko Marxist socialists.
Damn you, that's my candy!
That's a feeling I know all too well. All right, so it's midterm time, and I want to talk today about what's happening in the midterm elections right now. And we're going to listen to some clips from some campaign ads, because campaign ads always tell the truth. Of course, the actual message of the ad is often a big fat lie. If you're like me, you've been sitting here for weeks just seeing a million terrible political ads a day that are full of nonsense, but they always tell the truth about one thing. They always tell you what the candidate is worried about and what they believe the mood of the country is, right? If Republican candidates believed that everyone hates Donald Trump and that Donald Trump is wildly unpopular, all you would hear are ads saying, "Oh, I'm nothing like President Trump. I'm not like President Trump. You've got to elect me. I'll fight President Trump. I'll go to Washington and I'll stand up to President Trump. He may be in my party, but he's a blah, blah, blah." That's all you would hear are ads attacking President Trump because people would believe that President Trump was unpopular. That's not happening. And I think you'll be quite delighted when you hear what is happening. So I'm going to get to that right now. All right, if you have listened to the last few shows, if you haven't, go to iTunes and download them, or go to my website, www.eddiezipper.com. That's www.eddiezipper.com. Download those old episodes and listen to them. Okay, so if you have listened to those episodes, you know that I think Republicans are going to win several seats in the Senate. They're going to lose some seats in the House, although I think they will hold on to the House majority, which is very important. I think Democrats are going to gain a modest number of seats in the House. And just gaining a few seats is going to be a tremendous failure for the Democrats and for the mainstream media, who is essentially the PR wing of the Democratic Party. Why will that be a failure? Because they have been pushing blue wavism on us for, well, basically since the day after the last election. When Trump was elected, they started telling us the next day, oh, the 2018, there's going to be a blue wave. Everybody is upset. Nobody wanted Trump to be president, even though millions of people showed up and voted for him. Oh, everybody's so upset. Remember, that is where they started. That is when they started their coverage of the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory. Take a look at Google Trends and search Trump-Russia collusion. Have you heard of Trump-Russia collusion at all in this election? This was supposed to be the deciding factor of the election, was Trump-Russia collusion. We're supposed to get all these ads that say, President Trump colluded with Russia. He has to be impeached. We need Democrats in the House. Nobody is running ads saying that. Maybe in some 80-20 Democrat district, some nutball is, doing their impeach Trump bit. But in these toss-up districts, which are the ones that matter, there is nobody out there saying, oh, impeach Trump. There's nobody out there saying Trump-Russia collusion. All right? Google Trends, if you know what Google Trends is, it shows you how popular a search term is. So you can go to Google Trends and you can type in your name and you can see how popular it is as a search term. Like how many times your name has been searched for, or how often your name has been searched for and when. So, Trump-Russia collusion as a Google search term became really popular right after the 2016 election. Then in March, it absolutely exploded. And the media was talking about it all the time, and it stayed a hot search term all summer long. And if you remember the summer, you remember the endless mainstream media narrative, Trump colluded with Russia. It was all over. Now, at election time, and this is what they were counting on. This was the progenitor of their big blue wave that they thought for sure was coming. They were like Linus waiting for the great pumpkin, right? They were waiting for the great collusion, Mueller to come down and say, we have proof, here's tape of President Trump making secret deals with Vladimir Putin. That's what they were waiting for. But it didn't happen. And now, at election time, guess what? Go to Google Trends. Nobody anywhere is searching the internet for Trump-Russia collusion. It is dead, okay? It is a narrative that is 6 feet under now. Everyone knows now that was all Democratic fan fiction. It was Harry Potter and the impeachment scam. Time magazine had the famous cover of the White House merging with the Kremlin. Oh, spooky. Every article in every mainstream newspaper was about Mueller and collusion and who colluded and who did this and who, just utter nonsense. And now everyone has given up on it. All the Democrats have given up on this. They know now. It's been exposed. The media types probably already knew. But it has been absolutely exposed. Nobody believes it. Nobody is searching the internet for it. They've just given up on it. Everyone sees now that it was a big, ridiculous scam. Hardly anyone is using that search term anymore. Democrats aren't longingly searching the internet for any story they can find about new developments in the Trump-Russia collusion story. In October 2018, searches for Trump-Russia collusion are about the lowest they've been since Inauguration Day. It is clear to everyone now that Trump-Russia collusion was a Democrat-led snipe hunt, a unicorn safari. It's MyHeritage DNA matches are Harvey the Rabbit and the Loch Ness Monster. Tinfoil hat people are shaking their heads skeptically about Trump-Russia collusion. That was actually pretty obvious all along, but it was hard for people to see because the mainstream media was pushing so hard. Conservative people, really smart people, like off the top of my head, Dan Bongino, that's a guy whose podcast I listen to every day. I mean, he was on top of that Trump-Russia nonsense from the get-go. Hats off to Dan Bongino for that. All right, so really smart people like Dan Bongino were like, there's no Trump-Russia collusion, and the mainstream media, they suddenly became the lawyer from Miracle on 34th Street, and they're like, I ask you to judge. What's worse, a lie that draws a smile, or a truth that draws a tear? So sorry, not sorry, to draw liberal tears, but there is no collusion. That was what they were counting on when they were pushing the big blue wave narrative. They really made some headway. They had the generic congressional vote at, Democrats plus 14. It's half that now. So it was working for a little while. They had a lot of people fooled. Even a lot of the phony mugwump Republican types were fooled. Some people call them never-Trumpers. I call them mugwumps. If you listen to the show, you already knew that. I can prove right now that there is no blue wave. I don't need the election results, and I don't need polls. Because why? Like I said earlier in the show, the ads always tell the truth. That's all you have to do is look at the campaign ads. No Trump-Russia collusion in the campaign ads. All right, so I'm looking at these campaign ads, and I can prove that there is no blue wave. If there was a blue wave, Joe Donnelly could win in Indiana running as a Democrat. Right? Joe Donnelly is the incumbent Democrat running for a Senate seat in Indiana right now. If there was a blue wave, he would be running as a Democrat and saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to stop Donald Trump. And all this Donald Trump nonsense, these policies have to stop. I'm the guy to go there and stop them. I'll stand up to Donald Trump, is what he would say if there was a blue wave atmosphere. There really was a blue wave in 2008. I remember the Obama turnout machine. It just wiped out the McCain campaign. I'm sure you remember too. In 2012, Joe Donnelly rode the Obama turnout machine to a 5-point victory for that Senate seat in Indiana that he now holds. Now, today, leading up to the 2018 midterms, we're only a week away. Now there's such a big blue wave in this country. There's so much Democratic enthusiasm. Everyone is so fed up with President Trump that Joe Donnelly is running this ad.
Socialists want to turn health care over to the government.
Over my dead body.
Some in Congress want to let insurance companies deny coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Not on my watch.
The radical left wants to eliminate ICE.
I support ICE in funding President Trump's border wall.
Extremes on the left and right want to cut defense spending.
I don't want our troops in a fair fight. I want them to have the best. As President Reagan said, peace through strength. I'm Joe Donnelly. I approve this message.
Dude. Wow. Socialists want government-run health care. The radical left. I support ICE. I want defense spending for our troops. I want to fund President Trump's border wall. Oh, and here's a quote from Ronald Reagan. Good grief. Okay, let me tell you something. There's no blue wave. There ain't no blue wave in Indiana. That is for sure. There is not off-the-chain Democrat enthusiasm in the state of Indiana. I can tell you right now, if there was, that is not the ad Joe Donnelly would be running. Okay, what do you think? I mean, what do you think Democrats are going to think when they see that ad on their television? Oh, this seat is competitive for one reason. It's not because there's a blue wave in Indiana, so a Democrat might get elected instead of a Republican. No, that is not why there is a competitive seat in Indiana. Okay, there is a competitive seat in Indiana because Joe Donnelly is straight up pretending to be a Republican. It's Halloween, so I guess this is Joe Donnelly's costume. He decided to dress up like a Republican. He wants to run against the leftist mobs and against socialized healthcare and champion President Trump's border wall and fund it and quote Ronald Reagan. Good Lord. I have held my nose and voted for Republicans less conservative than the guy in this ad. And I didn't hear any mention of his actual party in this ad. Yeah, he's keeping that close to the vest. I can tell you one thing, though. Joe Donnelly wasn't standing up to the crazy left for Indianans when the Democrats in the Senate were smearing Justice Kavanaugh. He was standing up for the Democratic Party and for Democratic beliefs and for keeping another Trump nominee off the bench at all costs. That's what he was standing up for. If Joe Donnelly wins that toss-up seat in Indiana, it won't be because of any blue wave. It'll be because his GOP Halloween costume was so lifelike. And that's true in a lot of these toss-up elections throughout the country. Over in West Virginia, you know Democrat Senator Joe Manchin, who's running for his seat, he has an ad where he takes a rifle and shoots legislation he doesn't like. It's an old ad, but he's rerunning the image of him shooting the gun. And he says, well, I think I have the audio.
That's me, shooting the cap and trade bill, because it was bad for West Virginia.
No mention of his party. Of course, oh, look at me shooting a gun. I must be a Republican, or I wouldn't be shooting a gun. We know Joe likes to go around pretending that he's buddy-buddy with President Trump. He won't mention that he voted against the GOP tax cuts, which would have doubled the standard deduction, which is taken by over 80% of West Virginians. So he really screwed West Virginians. I mean, he didn't because it passed anyway. But by not voting for it, if it hadn't passed, he would have really screwed West Virginians out of a lot of money because doubling that standard deduction is huge for people who take the standard deduction, and almost everybody in West Virginia does. The Democrat in Maine's 2nd District, another toss-up district, I think his name is Jared Golden, he has an ad where he says he's a straight shooter, and then he fires his rifle at a target and hits the bullseye, but he doesn't do it all in one shot, like one camera shot, so we don't know if he really hit the bullseye on that shot. I bet he didn't. The target in the ad, he hits the bullseye, but there's some way outside, way off the bullseye shots, so he probably had to try more than once on that. Not that I care, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying. And that's, of course, I mean, everybody knows this. That's why the mainstream media doesn't push gun control during elections. They don't do it because they don't want to harm all these Democrats all over the country who are trying to distance themselves from the gun grabbers in the Democratic Party, which is, I mean, the gun-grabbing Democratic Party. That's who they want to distance themselves from. The Connor Lamb technique has been adopted all over the country. Here's a Claire McCaskill ad. This is an audio ad. She's running for re-election in Missouri. Of course, she's the Democrat. She's trying to hold that seat. I don't think she's going to. But she wants you to know, it's really important for her, that you know that she is not one of those crazy Democrats. That's what the ad says. I'm not one of those crazy Democrats.
Well, I don't always agree with Claire McCaskill, but she works hard, fighting against those tariffs, doing all those town halls. And Claire's not afraid to stand up against her own party.
Yep, and Claire's not one of those crazy Democrats. She works right in the middle and finds compromise.
These ads aren't, oh, President Trump is awful, you have to keep me because I'm the only one who can fight President Trump. That's not what's happening. She's running against the Democratic Party. She stands up to her own party. She's not one of those crazy Democrats. This is what I mean when I say that the ads tell the truth. Even if they're full of it, they tell the truth because you can see what they're running against. And all these Democrats are running against the Democratic Party as it exists. They're running against the left. They're running against, I'm gonna get to the next thing that they're running against. This is gonna be a good one. Back in those halcyon, Trump colluded with Russia, everything the GOP does is Armageddon days, the election Ouija board types who perennially pop up on TV to forecast blue waves were telling us that everyone everywhere would be running against President Trump in 2018. Do you remember? Republicans were going to lose seats simply due to the existence of President Trump. He was supposed to be the Trump-mobile, smashing into the bottom of the ticket and taking out all the Republican senators and representatives. But that's not what is happening in these toss-up states and toss-up districts, not even close. It was supposed to be Republicans trying to distance themselves from Trump or running against Trump and Democrats running against Trump, but that isn't happening at all. Everyone is running against the resistance and the Democratic Party. Everyone is running against the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs left. I'm not one of those crazy Democrats. Is a huge message right now in toss-up districts. Don't believe me? Check this out. This is from the Washington Post. Okay, this isn't from anything conservative. This isn't from the Federalist. It ain't from the Daily Caller. It's not from the Washington Examiner. It's not from the Washington Times. This is from the Washington Post. 87 of the 260 non-incumbent Democrats running for House seats have refused to endorse Pelosi or sidestepped questions about her. About half of that 87 are running in, you guessed it, toss-up districts. That's your blue wave. If Democrats win back the House, it's not going to be because the country suddenly turned Democrat because they hated Trump so much. It will be because Democrats smartly chose to run against things that Americans don't like. Nancy Pelosi and the cuckoo extreme left. Let me tell you what is so hilarious about this. They're running against Nancy Pelosi all over the country in the toss-up districts. I'm not talking about 80-20 districts where everybody is a Democrat, okay? I'm sure they're barely running any ads, and if they are running an ad, it's probably, Trump is Armageddon, whatever. Who cares what they talk about in those districts? The only districts that matter are the toss-ups. And in the toss-ups, they're running against Nancy Pelosi. It's an anti-Pelosi wave if it's anything at all. If the Democrats win, they won in an anti-Pelosi, anti-ultra-left wave. There's not an anti-Trump anything in these toss-ups. All right, so let me tell you what is so hilarious about this. You know who Magic 8-Ball Shaker Nate Silver is. He's the 538 data guy who is famous because of his amazing ability to correctly predict elections where the Democrats win. He's not as good at predicting the outcome of elections that Republicans win, but he's really good at predicting. Basically, this guy's great skill that has made him famous, and he's on every TV show, and everyone wants to know what he thinks is going to happen in the election. Basically, this guy's skill is the ability to predict that Obama will win the presidency twice. That's what he did. He predicted it in 2008, and everybody went, ooh. And then he predicted it again in 2012, and everybody went, ooh. But he has yet to predict any Republican winning the presidency. So, I think we all know what that says. So he's this famous 538 data guy. I was listening to the 538 podcast where he talks about his election model. And one of the things that he's talked about is how Democratic House candidates are just absolutely smoking Republicans in the fundraising department. And that is absolutely true. Okay, so one of the big advantages of incumbency that Republicans have in most of these toss-up districts is name recognition, okay? That's the big one. The best way to neutralize that advantage is with lots and lots of money. Then you can get your name out there. Then you can get name recognition without being the incumbent. That's hard to do. You need lots of money. So the Democratic candidates all over the country have these money bins full of money that they could just, like Scrooge McDuck style, jump into their money bin and swim around. And they use that money to run their ads where they say, if I'm elected, I won't support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Who do you think raised all that money? Nancy Pelosi! The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and Nancy Pelosi raised all that money. The candidates are running their anti-Pelosi ads literally using the money that Nancy Pelosi and the DCCC raised for them. Basically, those ads should be like this. If you elect me, I won't support Nancy Pelosi for House Speaker. She's wrong for this red state or red district. And then you jump cut to, paid for by Nancy Pelosi. Because that's what happened. She raised that money. If Democrats take back the House, one of two things is going to happen. And that's a big if. I don't think they're going to. But if they do, one of two things will happen. Scenario one. Huge civil war between the Democrat New Guard and the Democrat Old Guard. New Guard wants to elect Tim Ryan Speaker of the House. That would be weird, because then we would go from Speaker Ryan to Speaker Ryan. That would be strange. But anyway, New Guard wants to elect Tim Ryan Speaker. They want to work with President Trump, be moderate and pro-American. The Old Guard wants to continue La Resistance, the same La Resistance that has all but destroyed the party. La Resistance nonsense has worked so well over the last 2 years that Democrats are literally running against it in toss-up states and toss-up districts. All right, so this big civil war between one faction of Democrats and the other faction of Democrats, that's one hypothetical outcome. Here's the second scenario. Scenario 2. Spoiler alert, the scenario that's actually going to happen. You are the victim of a Trojan horse attack. Okay, the horse is all these moderate Democrats. Oh, and they look beautiful. So you let them into the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and then guess what's inside the horse? More of the same nutty leftist hardcore Democrats. And that's what's really going to happen if you go out and vote for Democrats in these toss-ups. Even all these Democrats who are running against Nancy Pelosi, against the hard left, against the abolish ICE types. You go and vote for them, you're going to wind up with just more of the same Democrats. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't pay for these people to get elected if they were going to overthrow her. The day after the election, I promise you, Joe Donnelly is going to be through quoting Ronald Reagan for about the next 6 years. Count on it. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on iTunes. Please leave a review on iTunes. If I missed anything, you can email the show and let me know at patriots@eddiezipper.com. That's patriots@eddiezipper.com. nbsp.com. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
Claire's not one of those crazy Democrats.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.